Hey everyone and welcome. Ever wonder how code goes from being just a dumb list of tasks to something, well, smart? Something that can actually make decisions? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today. We are diving deep into JavaScript operators. I mean, really think about it. Your average script, it's just a to-do list, right? It just follows your orders, one line after the next. But what's the secret sauce that makes it intelligent? How do we get it to look at a situation and actually make a choice? The answer, my friends, is operators. That's it. These little symbols and keywords are the fundamental building blocks. They're what give our code the power to think, to react, and to decide. All right, so where do we even begin with all this? Well, we start at the simplest place possible, asking a basic yes or no question, a true or false. And for that job, we need comparison operators. Okay, let's look at some actual code. Super simple stuff. We've got two variables, x, which is 6, and y, which is 2. See that double equal sign? That's our comparison operator. It's basically us asking the computer, hey, is the value in x the same as the value in y? And of course, since 6 is not 2, the computer is going to come back and say, nope, that's false. And hey, lean in for this next part, because I'm telling you, understanding this next little detail is a classic interview question. Getting this right is one of those things that really shows an interviewer you know what you're talking about.
See, in JavaScript, things get a little tricky. There isn't just one way to ask if two things are equal. You've got loose equality, the double equals, and then you have strict equality, the triple equals. They look almost the same, but trust me, they can act in completely different ways.
So here's the deal. The thing you absolutely have to remember. The double equals only cares about the value. So to it, the number 7 and the string of text 7 look exactly the same. But the triple equals is much stricter. It checks both the value and the data type. So for triple equals, the number 7 is definitely not the same as the text 7. That's a huge difference, and it's why using the triple equals is almost always the safer bet. Oh, and of course, if you want to check if they're not equal, you've got exclamation plus equals.
Okay, so now we can ask questions. Awesome. But what about acting on the answers? Let's check out a really cool, super elegant shortcut for doing just that. It's time to talk about the ternary operator.
So what is this thing? The ternary operator is basically a super short way to write an if-else statement. It's so clean. It has 3 parts. That's why it's called ternary. You have your condition, the question you're asking, then a question mark. After that, you put what you want to happen if it's true, then a colon, and finally, what you want to happen if it's false. Condition, question mark, true value, colon, false value. That's it.
Let's see it in action. Here, our condition is A is greater than B. So is 6 greater than 2? Yep, it sure is. That's true. So the code follows the true path and picks the very first thing after the question mark, which is the string yes. And that's what gets printed. So simple, right? So clean.
All right, but let's get a little tricky now. What happens if our condition isn't a straight-up true or false comparison? What if we just stick a variable in there? So we've got x is 6, y is 2, and z is 8. Now look at this expression, x question y colon z. The condition is just x. What do you think is going to happen here?
Go on, take a guess. The condition is x, and x is 6. So, is the output going to be true? Maybe it'll be 6. I bet the answer is not what you think.
2. What? Not 6, not true, 2. Okay, why in the world did that happen? This is a fantastic example of a really important concept in JavaScript. It all comes down to something called Truthy and Falsy values. Here's the deal. In JavaScript, some things just feel true, even if they aren't the actual Boolean value true. And any number that isn't 0 is one of those things. It's considered truthy. So when our code saw x, which was 6, it said, hey, that's truthy, and immediately picked the true option, which was the variable y, which holds the number 2. Now, if x had been 0, which is falsy, it would have gone the other way and given us z.
Okay, let's take a breath. We can ask questions, and we've got a cool shortcut for making decisions based on the answers. So what's next? It's time to level up. Let's see how we can start chaining these questions together to build some really complex logic. And for that, we need logical operators.
So, there are 3 main players here. And is and, or is or, and not is not. But hang on a second, look at the examples here. You'd think the output would always be true or false, right?
But look, with and or, we're getting back one of the original numbers. That seems weird. But don't worry, there's a very, very smart reason this happens.
The magic behind this is a concept called short-circuit evaluation. It's a bit of a fancy name, but all it really means is that JavaScript is, well, it's kind of lazy, in a good way. It's super efficient. It will not do a single bit of extra work if it doesn't have to.
Let's walk through how this works for the AND operator. So the code sees 0 and 2. It looks at the first thing, the 0. It asks itself, is this falsy? And yeah, 0 is definitely falsy. Now, for an AND statement to be true, both sides have to be true. The moment it finds a falsy value, it knows the whole thing is a bust. It can't possibly be true. So it just stops right there. It short circuits and returns the very thing that caused the problem, the 0. It never even looks at the 2. So efficient.
All right, so let's put this all together. We've talked about comparison, ternary, and logical operators. These aren't just a bunch of random symbols you have to memorize. Think of them as your first real toolkit for building code that's actually smart and can react to things. So what's in our toolkit? First, we've got our comparison operators, double equals and triple equals, for asking those basic true-false questions. Next, we grab the ternary operator, our slick little one-line shortcut for if-else. And finally, we added the logical operators and or, which let us chain all our logic together. Seriously, mastering these three is the absolute foundation for writing code that can actually think.
And that brings us to the end. I want to leave you with a thought. We've really only looked at 3 simple ideas, 3 types of operators, but when you start combining them, wow, they become the building blocks for practically anything. A login form, a checkout page, a video game's AI, it all starts here. So the question is, with these simple tools, what amazing things are you going to build?